Part 2. When the House is Filled with Dread. Chapter 9. June 1931. It is good to see you, Junior. The Havana cigar exits the sardonically curved lips just long enough for the Hungarian to finish the greeting, then resumes its place as he grasps the hand belonging to the nervous young man with the long-toothed grin. Those lips, that intense stare, and especially the suave, sinuous accent, have chilled and seduced millions. "Good morning, Mr. Lugosi. I've been looking forward to this all week." Carl Laemmle, Jr., the most powerful man in the room, for all his youth and tiny stature, cannot help but behave like a star-struck fan. The tall Continental in the beautiful black suit towers over him by a foot, and although he is almost invariably cordial, his manner seems aloof, as though he's been a movie star for many years instead of just 4 months. Few who have met him suspect the truth, that his limited command of English is responsible for his distant manner. The man is shy and somewhat suspicious of being taken advantage of, with good reason. Dracula has saved the studio from bankruptcy, but Bela Lugosi was paid only $500 for playing the lead. The young man turns away to welcome the 2 men who have entered the screening room behind the actor. Cameraman Paul Ivano, the only native-born American of the 3, but who affects European ways, bows smartly. There is about the gesture a faint impression of heels clicking. Conversely, Robert Florey, a husky 6'4" Frenchman, stoops to pump Laemmle's hand like a bluff Midwesterner. He is one of Hollywood's legendary hosts, whose stock is high with every caterer, florist, and bootlegger in 3 counties. Both men address the 23-year-old chief of production as Junior. His father, who founded the studio and, incidentally, the West Coast motion picture industry, is Uncle Carl to everyone at Universal. Last to arrive, with apologies, is Edward Van Sloan, minus the dignified hairpieces he usually wears on screen. In speech and carriage, the middle-aged actor is every bit the Broadway veteran, enunciating his consonants and accompanying them with broad but graceful gestures. He was in the first wave of talent imported from the Eastern stage to lend voice to that frightening new innovation, the soundtrack. Many of the vamps, villains, and male and female leads who made the silent screen glitter cannot speak without demonstrating some accent or impediment inappropriate to their images. Some cannot even act. Junior pardons Van Sloan's tardiness with a shrug. "I expect to enjoy the show. Any test the Catholics tried so hard to stop is bound to be a sensation." "Pious hypocrites, these special interest thugs," replies the actor. "When Bela and I did Dracula at the Fulton Theater, we went through a gallon of pig's blood a week, and another pint when we added a second performance on Saturday. The Decency League said not a peep. We didn't spill a single drop in the film, and they came swarming out of the woodwork like rats," Lugosi finishes, in a respectable imitation of Dwight Frye's Looney Renfield. Laughing, he seizes Van Sloan's hand. They know each other well from months on the road. Junior's smile slips a notch. Pious and powerful, don't forget. The pressure's even worse in England, where they have government censorship. Pop's ready to pull the plug on Frankenstein if we lose that market.
Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley faced the same opposition when she published her book. That was 100 years ago. Some things don't change, but we have to.
Florey, who adapted the novel for his screenplay, taps a cigarette on the gold case it came from and fits it into a holder.
"Tell Uncle Carl we can't go on telling stories about sheiks and bullfighters. Pictures talk now, thanks to you."
The round of laughter puzzles Lugosi. Ivano, the cameraman, fills him in his studied dialect.
"Junior would have made a splendid second-story man if he weren't born in show business. He circumvented Warner's Vitaphone patent by pilfering their sound equipment right off the lot."
Under cover of midnight,
Van Sloan's intonation is sepulchral. Junior's grin returns. Pop was proud as a peacock. He's a bit of a buccaneer himself. He came out here one step ahead of Thomas Edison's Pinkerton detectives. In those days, the Wizard of Menlo Park claimed sole ownership of the motion picture making process, and the courts backed him up.
They told me in Budapest, you're all gangsters over here.
Lugosi draws thoughtfully on his cigar.
I can see now they were right.
The Hungarian always sounds solemn, even when he's joking. Junior, uncertain, changes the subject. How did you get along with the makeup? Florey, Ivano, and Van Sloan stiffen, anticipating an explosion. But Lugosi is merely peevish.
That barbarian, Jack Pierce, wanted to give me a square head. I am an artist, not a scarecrow.
He leans heavily on the makeup expert's name, ending it in a harsh sibilant, Jack Pierce. The Count would pronounce it just that way. Bela did his own, Ivano put in. He left his face free and took the lighting well. Junior is a diplomat. Pierce is an artist, too. We don't want people confusing Frankenstein's creation with the boss vampire just because the same actor played both roles. Florey gestures impatiently with his cigarette.
I'm still on record in opposition to Bela playing the brute. He's much better suited to Frankenstein himself. Fortunately, Robert has written me some lovely lines.
Bela blows a series of smoke rings.
You should thank Mary. The creature in the novel is quite articulate and inclined to go on. I could have written sides. I don't suppose you could live with Percy without some of his epic poetry rubbing off on you, eh?
He goes on a bit as it is, but we'll discuss all that later. Junior breezes through this dismissal. He's consulted with his father on Florey's script. Curl Sr. doesn't know Percy Shelley from an act in vaudeville, but he agrees with his son that no one with ears would accept a Hungarian Frankenstein's monster. They've decided the part will be mute. Well, let's see what you've all been up to this past week. They take their places in plush tan mohair seats trimmed with glistening mahogany, an Art Deco theme introduced by Junior's interior designer, who redid the screening room immediately after Uncle Carl promoted his employer to his present position. The lights dim. The projectionist starts his machine whirring, and a beam of white shoots out and lands on the screen, with the smoke from Florey's cigarette and Lugosi's cigar curling in the shaft. Director and studio chief watch the jumpy numerals counting down to the first frame with professional eyes, mentally adding editing and laboratory shellac to the rough-cut product to follow. Possibly a musical score, although that's a subject of controversy in this brave new world of the sound feature. Will the audience be distracted, looking around and wondering where the music is coming from? Such a simple invention, a common phonograph record, synchronized to the action on screen, and so profound in its effect. It has changed everything about the way the business is run, from casting through promotion to distribution. How will Garbo's heavy Swedish accent and hoarse contralto play in Omaha? What will become of Fairbanks-style swashbucklers now that the camera is sealed in a soundproof cell and can no longer follow an actor swinging from a chandelier and bounding from the deck of one pirate ship to another? Can Ramon Navarro deliver a line without sounding like Blanche Sweet? Challenging times. It's no wonder the torch has passed to the Jazz Age generation. The screen test begins on the gloomy Carfax Abbey set, lately inhabited by the company of Dracula. If Junior likes what he sees, it will be transformed with painted canvas flats, clever lighting, and young Ken Strickfaden's whiz-bang electric pinball machines into Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory. The five men sit, unspeaking, throughout the moody creation scene building up to the entrance of the synthetic man, the money shot that will make or break the picture. For in the heart of everyone connected with it, lurks the hope of duplicating the sensation of Lon Chaney's unmasking in The Phantom of the Opera. That shot sent millions to bed with all the lights on and kept Universal solvent throughout the horrendously expensive transition to sound. It starts off well. Ivano is a journeyman cinematographer, and the scene is a set piece that adapts comfortably to the camera's enforced incarceration in its bunker-like enclosure, where the noise of its bearings and cooling fans cannot be recorded by the undiscriminating microphone. The lighting is basic, but serviceable, and the pace appropriate to suspense. Van Sloan is dependable as always. He reads his cynical lines in beautifully rounded tones to the contract player standing in for whoever will take his place in the lead. Central casting wants Leslie Howard, but Flory is holding out for someone equally British, but more dynamic. Is Ronald Colman available? Junior, who truly loves movies, wonders if he will ever again be able to watch one without being distracted by better alternatives. The tiny audience fidgets while the reels are being changed. Throats are cleared. Commentary of any kind is considered bad luck in the grand tradition of the theater. Lugosi extinguishes the stub of his cigar with a contented sigh and applies himself to the art and science of igniting another so that it burns evenly. He seems sanguine. Who knows what goes on inside the head of an Eastern European, and an actor at that. Dracula, for him, is a contemporary documentary. In the village where he grew up, people did not hang garlands of garlic on their front doors to welcome Father Christmas. Junior clears his throat. It's an ominous sign for Flory and Ivano, fellow Hollywood insiders that they are. Young Lemley doesn't smoke and is not inclined toward excess phlegm. The second reel commences to turn. All lean forward as Ivano's camera tracks in tightly on Lugosi in full makeup, the round peasant face framed by a Buster Brown wig, blown up to Brobdingnagian proportions, filling the screen, waxen and still but for the eyes, shifting from side to side with pinlights reflecting off them, as they had in his signature film. An actor never abandons a trick that worked once. The shot resembles nothing that has ever been seen on film before. The tense silence is shattered by a strident sound. Junior Lemley's high-pitched laughter, innocent as a boy's. An excruciating few seconds ensue. To the end of their lives, Flory, Ivano, and Van Sloan will swear that they seemed like 5 long minutes. Finally, the last foot of celluloid flutters through the gate like a fish frantically escaping an angler's net. The lights come up indecently fast. Everyone blinks. Silence. Junior springs to his feet, youthful energy incarnate in a 5-foot, 90-pound frame. "I'll have my secretary arrange a conference. Thank you, gentlemen." In comparison to the awful stillness following the end of the test, the round of handshaking seems lightning fast. Junior's size 6 feet and hand-lasted leather actually pitter-patter toward the exit. Flory, Ivano, and Van Sloan stand with hands in pockets, looking at one another and the blank screen, as if they hold it responsible for what has taken place on its surface.
"Ivano!"
Lugosi's loud baritone makes everyone else jump. He is beaming. No one has seen his face split so wide since the first review broke for Dracula in The Hollywood Reporter.
"My close-up was magnificent."
He thrusts a fistful of cigars into the cameraman's hand. Van Sloan, at least, has the presence of mind to respond, "Bela, you were never better." Lugosi slaps his back. The pair were never that close throughout their Broadway run and the long trek during the road production, but there is something about Hollywood, the scent of the strange flora and the dry desert air, the bankrolls that seem to grow like coconuts from the palms in an impoverished world, and strides out, trailing dollar clouds of smoke. "I never got the habit." Ivano offers the cigars to Flory. The director keeps his hands in his pockets.
"Keep the cigars. Burn the film.